During the Clinton administration, there apparently, at least it's reflected now, there was passed a bill concerning prosecution for war crimes. There was also an emergency appropriation that was specifically about the situation in Kosovo. As I recall, in this emergency appropriations bill, there was exactly $1 million allotted to pay for legal support in prosecuting war crimes connected to Kosovo. You should have seen the numbers in the rest of this appropriations bill. We're talking tens of millions, even billions of dollars, and they appropriated $1 million in support of mounting a campaign to prosecute war crimes. In the last couple of years, I've seen two major international efforts at war crimes that have been going on for decades thwarted as part of people's American based election campaigning. There was an effort that was advertised by the official government ministry in Liberia as attempting to address a war criminal that I understand was connected to the timber sector, and that was attempted for trial in another country. But that was intentionally manipulated by people who had interest in trying to obstruct an announcement of who is alleged to be the current Secretary of State, but was also the former head of the Central Intelligence Agency prior to that, in his pursuit of whether or not to announce his run for the U.S. Senate. At that time, the actions that were taken ended up resulting in the death of Congressman Elijah Cummings, as opposed to the person that was the intended target. There was also an effort on several occasions to interfere with a war crimes tribunal connected to the nation of Guatemala. This, as far as I know, began officially at the beginning of 2016 and has been aided and abetted in interference by the same people that facilitated the murder of Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia. As a matter of fact, the points of intersection in attempting to obstruct the war crimes investigation in Guatemala, almost at least twice that I've noticed in the last year, have directly correlated with efforts to turn over transactions connected to the murder of Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia. Some fancy ass lawyers and their hedge fund managers think it's fun to obstruct evidence gathering and prosecution of serious crimes up to and including war crimes. And I think this has to do with Slobodan Milosevic. Very shortly before, I was attempting to present my business plan, which, by the way, understand, my business plan was actually a community organizing modality aimed at giving us an opportunity to avail ourselves of constitutional rights for redress in order to recover things we had been intentionally dispossessed of in an illegal manner, and then use them as some sort of attempt to negotiate with those responsible for the theft or who had benefited from the theft in a manner to ameliorate any sort of potential future problems. This is Texas. Texas is different than other places. There was necessarily a different model that was needed. But at that time, somebody was also trying to play some high stakes game. And while I was attempting to look up information connected to Michael Manley's policies in Jamaica, what happened instead was an attempt to divert me to trying to play the Milosevic game. Somewhere, some group of lawyers are so arrogant that what they do is they take on as if they are some major criminal, up to and including a war criminal. And they act as if and engage as if they are that criminal. And the game is you become the criminal to flip the crimes. And the badder ass you are, the more leverage you're going to work with. So when I was trying to look up information about Michael Manley's policies while he was the Prime Minister of Jamaica, because I had information that made me want to seek something specific about what he had done. They wanted me to play the Slobodan Milosevic game. I said no, and within a week I was kidnapped. Someone's still doing that now. Understanding is that there are a number of cases internationally that are attempting to challenge war crimes that have been committed specifically in connection with the gas and oil sector. I watched last year as I personally was retaliated against when they waived off a bunch of transfer taxes connected to the artifacts, Nazi artifacts put on display at an Argentine Holocaust museum. When they moved them, there must have been a tax or something, and I spent literally hours crying in excruciating pain because somebody was watching me track the Attorney General of Rhode Island's efforts in litigation involving the gas and oil sector. And they were letting me know they weren't going to let me actually communicate with the Attorney General of Rhode Island. I had no way of being able to do that, and I literally spent the next day to 2 days in excruciating pain while they tormented me as part of a Holocaust scheme. Now, right now, the state of Texas has a sunset review for some commission on Holocaust and the genocide. I think they're literally playing the flip the war criminals game. I think these lawyers that claim they're lawyers and maybe judges up to the Supreme Court of Texas really believe they're entitled to torment people by trying on the persona of someone up to and including a convicted war criminal and flipping the crimes. In the course of that, one of the other things that has happened is I believe there has been intentional and malicious interference in attempts by the nation of Nigeria to try to hold Shell Oil accountable for crimes that not only have been committed more recently, but that, as I understand, go all the way back to the 1980s and are connected to an effort of members of a community to seek justice for the murder of, I believe, 8 or 9 activists from their community who were protesting the activities of Shell Oil. I've seen enough just right here in Texas, and I've done my due diligence in reporting it, to believe that if there were to be a citizens tribunal, or if there were to be a constitutional convention, or if there were to be some sort of understanding of the need for people internationally to be able to have their rights to protections and due process protected outside of the disgusting sexual fetishism that these particular lawyers and class of lawyers think they're entitled to, and the judges who require some demonstration of sexual fealty in order to go to court seem to require. Outside of that, there is just cause for mounting a case regarding policies specifically involving Shell Oil, but not exclusively involving Shell Oil, just right here in Texas. Do I believe they constitute war crimes? Absolutely. I also believe it's treason. It is treasonous to commit war crimes against your own people. It is treasonous to intentionally dispossess your people illegally and unconstitutionally of their capabilities to support themselves and their communities. And it is treasonous to then make them available as human chattel to anyone, whether a private entity or a government-sponsored entity, to then be auctioned off for sale internationally as if they are part of the 3/5 compromise. None of us are, none of us ever were, and refusing to address that historical character flaw is no excuse for condoning depravity in the stead of statecraft.